So, so when I came to the event today, I was told that the theme was the only constant is change. And what that represented to me was the fact that life is continually changing, we're particles that are changing. But the reality is that no one really wants us to change. We're changing, but people actually want us to not only stay the same, but to box us. So what I'm focusing this talk upon is to let nobody define you but yourself. So when I came in today, first thing I'm sure you noticed is I'm in Karachi, I'm wearing jeans, I'm wearing a jacket, and I'm wearing a particular outfit. And most of the people watching this, whether online or in person, will immediately form an assumption about the kind of person I am, based on how I chose to dress today. And this is something that could happen if I was in California, if I was in Japan, and of course, if I'm in Pakistan and Karachi like I am right now. The instinct is for anyone, whether it's a first impression or any impression, to actually be itching, craving, to form an opinion, an assumption, and even more than that, put the person they're meeting in a box. So instead of having a PowerPoint for you, I thought, why don't we do some props? So let's assume that I take off my jacket. Now this is a much more casual look, probably more fitting for Karachi weather. And it gives a different impression at all. It's actually more approachable, one would think. But again, assumptions and impressions are being made. Like in Karachi, a lot of times we wear kurta with our jeans. Now, let's say I'd come instead today. Wearing a hijab. Suddenly, your impression of me would have been very different when I walked in the room, particularly if I'm not wearing sleeveless. And then imagine I came in today wearing an IBA. Okay, now please don't get worried. I'm not going to start stripping my layers off. But we're now going to be in this IBA, which is meant to be plain and something that you actually shouldn't invite any assumptions on. Because no one other than those of you who just watched me now, which is everyone watching this, put this on, have any clue what I'm wearing underneath. And so it's actually not meant to be something that invites assumptions. But still, in today's world, it automatically does. And believe you me, if I'd walked in today and walked onto stage wearing this, you'd have thought completely differently about how you were going to place me in your mind than how I walked in. And so that's what we're actually focusing today's talk upon. That the world is changing, our particles are changing, we're aging, technology's changing, the entire constant of the world is changed. But the reality is every one of us craves boxing everything and everyone in our life. Whether it gives us comfort or stability, at the end of the day, it very much is something we instinctively do. Whether it's based on clothes, whether it's based on accent, whether it's based on height, skin color, even on intelligence. We're itching to sort of place each other in boxes. Now, this is something that happens already instinctively, like I've said, but it's actually because it's easier. It's easier to place someone in a box. Did anyone looking at me today actually think I wonder who she is, what she thinks, and what she's going to say. People were so busy trying to, or instinctively assuming something about who I am based on their preconceived notions, that no one was actually, I think, that open to looking at a blank slate and wondering where we begin and how I could add any value to any of your lives. But it's not just people, it's actually ourselves. It's so much easier to allow other people to put us in boxes than to really get to know ourselves and define ourselves. And it's actually not hard to find out who you are, but it's scary. And when I look at my own life and who I am, I very often sought the boxes that people were clamoring to put me in as a path for my life journey. So if people are putting you in a box, not only is it easier for them and easier for you, but it's often something you fall into. And when you fall into things, as is often said, if it's the wrong path, the quicker you get off that wrong train and turn around, the better for you. So today we're focusing on don't let anyone define you other than yourself, even if they want to, and even if you want them to. Those who at the end of their life claim, think, or feel, or believe that they have wasted their life or have the most regrets of anyone on their deathbed is when they have not lived an authentic life. And that's particularly true in places like Karachi, but it's equally true to anyone around the world, because these same assumptions and these same automatic instincts happen everywhere. So I was personally very scared to define myself. And one could say, at first I didn't know how, because how do you define yourself when you're all born into a certain family, you're born into a certain culture, you're born into a certain religion, and everyone before you and everyone around you is doing things a certain way. But if I'm looking at it honestly, maybe I was also a little bit lazy, because it takes so much effort to do something when you can just sort of do what everybody else is doing. That's not only easier, but it takes a lot less effort. However, the truth always boils down to that I was too scared. And it seems to make no sense to any of us. Why would we be scared to be ourselves? Why would we be scared to even find out who we are or know ourselves? Why don't we have faith or confidence that our instincts, our inner voice, our own desires are the right ones? And not just the right ones, but the only ones we should be focusing on. And I'm not talking about desires that hurt other people. I'm talking about deep desires of where we need to move, in what direction, with what friends, with what path in your career, with whatever your journey is. It's all unfolds from within you, but we tend to look around ourselves. So everyone in my life has always been comfortable defining me. And I thought they must know more, because why? They were people, right? Why do we actually care so much what people think? What do we care so much about what society thinks, or everyone in class thinks, or everyone at work thinks? Why does it matter? I'm not talking about promotion. I'm not talking about quality of work. I'm not talking that it doesn't matter what your assignments are and what your boss thinks or your professor thinks. I'm talking about the people around us. I mean, obviously you're not going to wear your pajamas to class or to work. There's certain norms that you follow. But beyond that, how you choose to present yourself, how you use your voice, how you use your mind is actually a waste if it's not used at all. If you come into this room, and if everyone in this audience or everyone watching this wore the exact same outfit, which I'm ironically saying when I'm wearing an abaya, which of course is an outfit meant to be worn by many people, but I know I felt so different that I thought no one would understand the difference. And yet, ironically, the more I made bold choices, and the more I made authentic but different choices. So for example, when I chose to start Ladies Fund, or even when I chose to be CEO of 786 Investments, as the first female CEO in Pakistan's history of a non-banking financial institution, I remember I tried so hard to be like one of the guys. I tried so hard. I tried to think like one, act like one, and do what all the other CEOs were doing. But the minute we started, and I started doing things that were interesting to me, I started tapping into new market shares. And that's when we became interesting and worth not just people talking about, but worth people studying, worth people learning from. And that's when you end up with something a little bit different. And even with Ladies Fund, the work we've been doing, what's been so extraordinary is when we started with Pakistan's first ever awards for women in our nation's entire history. Can you imagine? March 8, 2008. Now there's 1 million women awards. Thank you. There are 1 million women awards here in the city, in this country. But when we started, we actually had the first one. There was, of course, Sitara Imtiaz and so forth that the president has always given, but that's gender neutral. But when we started awards for women, it was such an interesting journey. They were started in memory of Benazir Bhutto, who was a mentor of mine, and I was the Benazir Bhutto International Fellowship winner at Harvard Law. And upon her passing, in her memory, had created these awards to remind each other and the world that there wasn't a shortage of amazing Pakistani women. And there hasn't been, as we now enter the 15th anniversary in the next few weeks. It's been an incredible journey. What was so interesting is because it was the first one, people said such interesting things to me, like, why don't you just give an award to yourself? Or they would say that, how does someone qualify for this? Because many people were downplaying who they were. Would you imagine I'd meet people who were having a flower arranging business, a wife, a mother, doing an MBA, and they would say in Karachi that they were a homemaker. And to me, they were superwomen. Other women who were running huge businesses, but everyone was downplaying it. And when we started these awards, what was just so interesting is not only were people confused and curious, but overnight, a societal dynamic changed. Suddenly now, as we enter these years, would you believe how many people try to bribe the judges or try to position any woman, whether it's their wife, their mother, their daughter, to win these things? And what is so interesting is that the very thing that people didn't understand has come to mean so much, not only in my life journey, but in others. And so I wonder, those of you watching and those of you here today, what is it that you're doing in life or not doing that you think is too weird or different or quirky or just not done as yet, or might be frowned upon or confusing to people that you're hesitating to do? Because once you decide who you are and what you're going to do, not only will you find yourself, but you'll find an entire tribe, which is kind of exciting and nice, right? So that is what I wish for all of you. Take the leap, take the step, but whatever you do, don't get on the wrong train. Don't get on the train everyone else is on just because they're on it. Get on whatever train you want to be on, because that's your destiny, and you might as well start living it. Thank you.